Hi, I'm Amanda Jane Woodall and welcome to my fashion school. So this is part 2 of the Katie Piper story, where we have seen a young British model be the victim of a horrific acid attack planned by her ex-boyfriend. And if you are sensitive, then please don't watch this video because it contains graphic details of injury. Katie screamed and writhed around in agony like an animal as a shocked public looked on. Nobody helped this girl who had been maimed. Entering the local coffee shop, she knew she needed to wash away the acid from her face. So she tried what she could. She tried throwing water at herself. She tried putting her head in an ice bucket, and she even resorted to flushing her face down the toilet to try and get some relief. But it just didn't happen, and Katie was very severely burned, and she had to wait hours in pain waiting for the medical assistance to arrive. She woke up in Chelsea and Westminster burns unit, and she was sure she could not have survived such horrific injuries, but she had. And although she was severely swollen, her eyes were welded shut, and she had bubbled skin like burnt plastic, Katie was alive. She could hear the distressed voices of her parents, half sobbing as they asked her, "Katie, did Danny do this?" And she found the strength to blindly scrawl on a piece of paper, asking her parents to end her life. Luckily, Katie was now in safe hands with medical professionals and a police team who wanted to help aid Katie back to health and get her justice against her attackers. She had the first of about 60 operations, including pioneering medical technology to help rebuild her burnt face. Her genius surgeon, Dr. Mohammed Jawad, searched tirelessly for new research and new techniques in order to help Katie get better. And he also secured funding from charities and local authorities so not to put Katie's family under financial pressure. Dr. Jawad and Katie became inseparable during her treatment and recovery, and she names him as her idol and her second father. Katie was left with complex PTSD and suffered hallucinations, which meant that she needed specialist psychologists to help her deal with coming to terms with her new reflection and her lifelong health conditions. The injuries were so severe that they affected all of Katie's daily functions, like dressing, washing, breathing, eating, even toileting, and Katie was reduced back to infanthood, requiring 24-hour adult care. Her family is an outstanding example of unconditional love, as they all shared the caring responsibilities for Katie, including recovery, hospital stays, operations, and her eventual settlement back into her mum and dad's home. Katie really struggled with daily living because she had become institutionalised, and she lived with the constant fear that Danny would attack her again. She was fitted with medical aids like a chin strap, a neck brace, and a vest to aid her healing, as well as being given a Perspex clear mask to wear for 18 hours of her day, and this would help to smooth the lumpy texture of her skin grafts. Once back at home, Katie realised that the lives of the friends she had made in London just carried on the same. While she was absolutely terrified that she would never work again, she'd never live independently, and she'd never have a relationship. She was desperate to speak to other victims of acid attacks, so she conquered her fear of going back on the internet and started to look for people to talk to, and she discovered that many of the victims came from countries who didn't have the medical care that Katie had been fortunate to have received. It humbled Katie, and she realised she had been really fortunate, and it gave her the motivation to continue fighting. Maybe if she got well, she could help other people to recover. During the early days of her recovery, Katie bravely worked alongside police, making video recordings evidencing the details of her attacks. Danny Lynch was quickly arrested alongside 20-year-old Stephen Sylvester, who had been the perpetrator of the acid attack, and he was found when people reported burns on his face to police, who had created an appeal to find him. The police worked tirelessly to find links between the pair, and they were able to prepare a court case to prosecute them. However, Katie was cruelly made to suffer further, as neither of the pair could face what they had done, tell the truth. Both of them were just so awkward and uncooperative, and this meant that Katie had to face the interrogation of a trial and relive the traumatic details. It's disgusting. The initial court case was very disappointing for Katie because there was a hung jury on one of the charges, and this meant that Katie didn't initially get the justice that she deserved. However, after a retrial on the 4th of March 2009, Sylvester was given a life sentence for his crimes with a minimum of 6 years served. And Lynch was given 2 life sentences with a minimum of 16 years served. And if you're thinking, that cannot be right, these short sentences for such a horrific crime, then you'd be absolutely right, because Stephen Sylvester is now out. He has his freedom, but Katie carries a life sentence of pain, surgeries, and PTSD. After sentencing, Danny's criminal history was revealed. He had served a previous jail term for throwing boiling water in a man's face and assaulting a lady in her own home. And the judge addressed Danny directly, saying, "The victim had a face of pure beauty, but you have the face of pure evil." Katie decided that she needed to share this story so that she could help to change the perception of burns victims and people with disfigurement. Dr. Joward put her in touch with his journalist friends, and they decided to make a documentary. The film was called Katie Piper, My Beautiful Face, and it documented Katie's journey through recovery, the prejudice she faced on the streets, trying to get control back of her life, and specialist treatment in a clinic in France, including the trials of recovery. She was shocked when the film aired, and it was viewed by 3.8 million viewers. And she couldn't believe it. She hadn't expected to be this popular. The next day she went out shopping, and floods of people came round Katie complimenting her, and it made her realise that people loved her and her story. She now had the fame that she had always wanted when working as a young TV presenter in London. but now she wanted the fame for a different reason. She wanted to promote acceptance and understanding for burns victims. Letters poured in from other survivors calling Katie their hero, and she replied to every single person in a handwritten letter and tried to give them encouragement and advice. The shame she had felt about her scars melted away, and she realised that she hadn't let Danny bully her into submission. Far from it. Katie's world opened up from her life just being at home or at hospital to now being invited to celebrity events, and she was even kissed by Rihanna and offered a TV job by Simon Cowell. But Katie, she wanted to use her fame to create a charity which helped to support victims of disfigurement, and also to create a centre like the specialist that she had visited while she was in France. In December 2009, the Katie Piper Foundation was founded with her miracle doctor, Dr. Joward, as one of its medical trustees. One of the aims of the foundation was to normalise the appearance of people's injuries, and Katie knew that this would take a long time, but she began by creating initiatives such as giving victims camouflage makeup kits, and also featured in another documentary called My Beautiful Friends, which featured people with disfigurements. This marked the beginning of a new life for Katie. She even got a new flat in London, a place where she had once been victimised and traumatised. She now felt strong enough to start her independent journey. And now Katie is a married mother of 2, and she has written many books and featured in many star-studded celebrity TV shows and daytime TV. She continues campaigning and also works on more intimate documentaries, supporting emergency workers and raising awareness for vulnerable groups of people. But the sad truth is that life will never be plain sailing for Katie Piper, as she has to deal with the consequences of her attacks for the rest of her life, even recently needing emergency surgery on a complication with her eye. Katie boldly led the way for more acceptance for diversity, disability and disfigurement. She went through the worst of experiences, but she continued to be kind, and it just proves that no matter what we are going through, that kindness and empathy is the answer. So be kind and be like Katie. So we have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching both parts of this 2-part series. It's not something that I do often, but it was really fun and it was a great story, and I really wanted to share it with you. And I'll see you again in my follow-up video when we'll be going back and taking a look, ooh, I'm so sorry dear, at British royalty.